All right. So I was in New York City over the last week or so during the United Nations General Assembly. There was some sidelines events I was opportune to attend. Here are some clips from some of the events. The video I'm about to play is a little bit of clip from a minister of digital economy in Nigeria. His name is Bosun Tijani.
Bosun Tijani, yes.
Bosun Tijani. He has some things to say about. The name of the event was the Next 3 Billion, and it was about connecting the next 3 billion people, particularly in Africa. So there was Bosun Tijani. I'm going to play a clip from that. There was Dr. Akinwumi Adeshina. I'm going to play a clip from that. There's also
And by the way, before you launch into that I mean, in a very big way,
sure.
let me commend your 7-hour marathon broadcast on our sister handle, man of prestige, um, highlighting and debating and projecting and making sure that all sides to the United Nations General Assembly event were given copious uh, coverage. Kudos
Thank
to you. Yeah,
Thank you.
go
Thank
for it.
you. Yep. All right. So right now I'm gonna play Bosun Tijani. Here's what he had to say.
We are rebuilding the future of humanity, literally with AI. And there's no future where certain part of the world is left behind, where certain part of the world is not part of that development. So we may end up with massive divide in society because AI is being built from just the perspective of the global north. That's why we have to prioritize the collection of data set. We can't leave it to ChatGPT to ensure that their models are inclusive, because the reality is ChatGPT is not going to come to Nigeria to help us, or anywhere in Africa, to help us digitize our reality. Yeah. The bulk of our reality is still dark, is unconnected, is not being used to train a lot of these models. We have to accelerate it. We know artificial intelligence is good for humanity, but it's also dangerous if it's not inclusive. And we have to take responsibility for it.
And that's one of your big initiatives.
That was a very particular highlight for me when he mentioned that, because at the point of this program was already 6 hours in when he was saying this, and there was a lot of celebration of the AI and the different technologies and innovation that's coming to Africa. But I thought it was very important to highlight what he just mentioned here, which is the fact that it needs to be all inclusive in terms of the data set that creates what we know today as the usefulness of AI. I'm going to play a little bit more of what he said because there's some more things to it.
In Nigeria is taking the country's data and making it accessible, right? And that's been a big problem with these data silos. I'd be interested in AV's view, or maybe there's a back and forth here on like, what are the dangers in doing that? Like, what do you need to look out for as you sort of prepare this data for these massive large language models?
Yeah, well, I think as Dr. Tijani has already articulated, it's important to have that.
Oh, just to be respectful to him, he's Dr. Tijani. So I'm going to go ahead and play.
It's Dr. Bosun Tijani. He had the doctorate.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and play what Dr. Akinwumi Adeshina had to say about it. Let's listen in.
Remember, it's an honor to be asked to serve my own continent. I'm proud of what we've actually done. I think our work over the last 7-8 years has impacted more than 400 million people. And that's what it really matters: water, sanitation, energy. Myself and President Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank. When Ajay was nominated to become President of the World Bank, the first place in the world he came to was me. He came to Abidjan. When I sat down with Ajay Banga, I said, Ajay, 3 things I'm going to ask you. First, Africa must have universal access to electricity, period. 2, we must feed ourselves. 3rd, we must have jobs for our young people. And I'm delighted to let you know that today, at the spring meeting, Ajay Banga and I announced what's called Mission 300.
All right. So there was a lot of conversations around infrastructure, making sure that infrastructure. Obviously, he's also mentioned the real stomach infrastructure. If people are hungry and they're dealing with their daily livelihood, there's going to be a problem with any of this kind of stuff. And majority of them cannot even be connected to it, which means they're not inclusive. The next one I'm going to play here is a clip of the Dr. Ngozi Okojie-Iweala.
Okojie-Iweala,
Yeah, she's a Nigerian economist, presently the Director General
the
of
Director General, World Trade Organization,
Organization.
WTO.
Yes. So she's 70 now. Interesting. So I'm gonna play a small clip. She received the most standing ovation at this particular event, and it was quite interesting to watch. Even though there was a don't tell me I forgot. President, there's a country in the East Africa. The president was in the room, but this lady received the most standing ovation that day, with an extended noise from every corner of that room. But I'm going to play her right now, and then we'll talk about it. This is what she had to say.
It's going to make it very costly. We've actually done some work at the WTO that shows that if the way we manage data flows in the world, because digital trade is also about not only flow of goods, but data, if we manage it in a fragmented fashion, each having its own way, or blocks of countries having their own way, and not a holistic approach, it could lead to almost a 1% loss in global GDP in the longer term. And it would be bigger losses for developing countries. So you're absolutely right that we need to find a cooperative approach forward.
And just to take you back
So
to the
again,
point you raised, which is a very
the inclusive thing is coming to play a lot. This is the theme that I'm noticing a lot. Even though these are good news of some of the developments in Africa thus far. The next one that I want to play here, even though it was supposed to be at the event, he wasn't at the event. But then this particular video was going viral because it was featured at, I think it was Bloomberg. And he had something to say about the removal of the subsidy, which is the main point that I want us to touch on in this particular segment.
And the Dangote connection.
Yes. So we're talking about nobody else other than the Nigerian billionaire Dangote. And I'm going to play that video shortly, and then we can get into some conversations. Let's go for it.
Do you think it's the right time to get rid of the subsidies?
I think it is, because all countries have actually gotten rid of subsidies. Let me give you an example. Saudi Arabia used to give what Saudis, the citizens, believe that, look, oil is our own God-given gift. So the government shouldn't charge us for it. So government were selling it at a very low price. But today, as we speak, gasoline is about 40% cheaper in Nigeria than in Saudi Arabia, which I think it doesn't make sense. That is one. Number two, our price of gasoline is about 60% of the price of our neighboring countries. And we have very porous borders. So it is not sustainable. The amount of...
All right. With that being said, let's get into it. I want to hear your thoughts on what you've heard.
Well, yeah, number one, they all spoke from a elitist point of view, and then they tried to play the fake card of championing this card of inclusivity, or game of inclusion, so that no segment of the society is left behind. That is not true. It's just lip service from this fortunate and opportune class. They do not really know the essence of the trouble, the extent of the trouble on the African continent. For example, if they are saying, electricity should be basically made available everywhere in Africa, have they thought of the question of security and insecurity on the continent, making sure that sustainable energy is all over the place, not just by way of grids that are nationwide or linked internationally on the continent. How about the vandals that are ever ready to plunder all these things? You are even trying to conscientize them. They look at it as low-level crime on the African continent, but it's even worse than that. And then cross-border crossings that makes it so precarious and dangerous to move from one country to the other on the African continent. Those basics need to be addressed and pinned down in a way that if they are not radically reduced to the barest minimum at least, some appreciable progress should be made in that wise. Now, Mr. Dangote has tried, is being celebrated as somebody who is gone where no one else has dared on the continent. Are you listening?
Absolutely, I'm listening.
Right.
Yep.
But turning himself to marketer in chief for subsidy removal is going to do a lot of damage to his brand and his name. He needs to refrain from, and I'm not trying to make him become timid. He has the money. What do I have? Brain and ability to put my message across. But the point I'm making is that, yes, it is not totally true. When you see, it's almost an insult when it comes out like this and makes it look like, oh, because what's it called? Being able to buy petroleum products in Saudi Arabia could be expensive, and vis-a-vis what? What is the strength of the local currency in Saudi Arabia? But beyond that, what do we know from our neighbors who come all the time from Saudi Arabia to pursue studies in America here? Does it know that the average medical student from Saudi Arabia, when they come to America or go to Europe to study or wherever they find themselves in the world, the average medical student gets around $7,000 in terms of bursary award from the government of Saudi Arabia. Any other grade of student, some, they don't get less than $3,000. Where does the Nigerian government come in for anybody like that? So he's saying subsidy must go. If there is no subsidy directly on petroleum products in Saudi Arabia, there are other areas in terms of social services, health, and whatever, where they enjoy subsidies. In Nigeria, it is not like that. You know, apart from the fact that oil products are so, because everybody places emphasis on PMS, petrol. But I'm looking at all the products coming, the range of products coming from crude oil itself. So the chain value, they are just stretching their instinctual stuff on profit making and price gouging. They are stretching it beyond what is reasonable, beyond what the society or the masses there can tolerate. So this is why I said Mr. Dangote should stop and should not stretch his luck too far, marketing what is not reasonable. We know that at the bottom of everything they are doing is insensitivity, and that that knack for the African leader to really care whether the poor is dying or not, so long they have their bellies filled. Now, quickly to to Dr. Okojie-Iweala.
Yes.
Honestly, you have seen her one-on-one. You've been able to operate with her. The few times I've been able to be around her and to speak with her, what do I see? This is an accomplished woman, world-class scholar, but also economist, whether at the level of World Bank, IMF, now World Trade Organization. She does not play second fiddle to anybody. And for me, I'm always quick, back at home in my village, to tell people, as a girl child, you don't want anybody messing you up or messing with your destiny. I tell my daughter that in the house. And what am I saying? Okojie-Iweala is not just able to connect with what Africans really need, what the actual needs of women all over the world are. She operates at the level that suits everybody. You don't see her coming back to Iseluku or Omera in Delta State, trying to push her attitude on the face of everybody. She waits and attends to people as a true princess, the father, a professor, I mean, she comes from well-educated home and from the royalty, from real African royalty.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see her throwing her weight around. She is just somebody I would love to have as a big sister, as a mother, as a daughter, as everything. Wherever you see her, that humility is always there. That is why you would see everybody getting on the feet for her in any hall, celebrating her genuine attainments and achievements. That's about Okojie-Iweala. Now, Dr. Bosun Tijani, we have to come back to the digital economy of a thing and communications stuff.
Yes.
Until people begin to look at access to all these facilities as a human rights stuff, as something that, yes, and then we look at the underpinnings. How much can we open to the world? How much can the world embrace through us? Beyond all these talks about artificial intelligence, I also want him to be in the forefront of making sure that the government in Nigeria and elsewhere in Africa should stop cannibalizing and penalizing access to digital facilities and phones and mobile telephony and what have you, the internet in the information superhighway age or time that we live in. The whole space is already democratized. People can own and express their own opinion as a real way of being a true citizen, not just of the world, but of any community. But all these things are being said. The world that is pioneering, that is championing the development, the invention of these things, they also still know how to keep their security stuff, and they know how to go after those who would use it to want to destroy the society. Look at the way Nigeria has found it so intractable. After the game on everyone's intelligence on what a BVN would do, a bank verification number, what's it called, national identification number would do, driver's license and all that. Yet they are not able to link and track idiots who have held the country by the jugular, perpetuating banditry, terrorism, and what have you. Look at the stuff coming from Israel in the last few days, the way they have been able to deal with, what's it called, the Hezbollah thing in the southern Lebanon, the way they are able to intercept shipments coming from far east, somewhere in Taiwan or wherever, and then embedded in those facilities meant for the Hezbollah terror organization, planting chips in there, and everybody trying to use a pager or mobile telephone in that terrorist network, getting blown, getting burnt, and all that. Why can too much, Dr. Bosun Tijani? Why is it not giving a viewpoint on this to the Nigerian security community and the government to make sure that this becomes real, a real and a timely equipment through which terrorism and other illicit crime
could that
becomes
real with the intelligence, because his own role is digital economy. It's about digital economy. Does he have? I know he has a role, but he can be invited.
Yeah, they don't cancel. They do not cancel each other out. Remember, we are not even the ones trusting this on them. They were the ones who outed themselves, saying, "This is what BVN would do. This is what NIN would do. This is what voters card would do. This is what all kinds of stuff would do." Developing huge database, even linking it with the Nigerian international travel passport. What we're saying is that this must become real in how we keep Nigerian lives and property safe. That is one area he must look into. After all, in that same country, somebody that was suspected of terrorism financing his predecessor in office was given the honor of becoming the minister in charge of that stuff. But this is somebody that was known to have actively campaigned for extreme Islamic agenda that would not even hesitate to see people being killed. Was trusted with all that. And then we are looking for compromises and the gaps in the way these people should, ensure deliverables on security and intelligence estimates. So this is the point we're making, that it must translate to reality for citizens instead of just using it to trail people who want to fund a peaceful protest and then begin to cannibalize and intimidate citizens all over the country. This is the point I'm making, sir.
So my question for you is that because this ministry is communications, innovation, and digital economy, and it was there to speak about connecting the next 3 billion people in this respect, right? And he was there pushing against. He was basically pushing against. It wasn't pushing against, but it was saying there's some things that need to happen before we go too wild with AI. You know, because the rest of the world is talking about AI, and every conversation is laced with AI. He's actually pushing against that, saying there are some things that must be done before we can. And then he also talked about, as part of that, he talked about what kind of data sets are being used to train these models. You know,
well,
is it Western information that will not understand our culture and our ways of life? So that's what he's speaking to. Now, that can, of course, by extension, affect how intelligence, security, and things like that can be more effective.
Now, let me tell you what ordinary citizens have done concerning the issues he raised. Remember, our cousin, Lekon Fabilola, he came up with certain software at the time. This is somebody that was trained by Covenant University in Ota, Ogun State. Now, he came up with software that could, Yoruba language is highly tonal. He came up with a software that could deliver the the tonal marks, accents on, yes, do, re, mi kind of thing.
Yeah.
He made an offer on this to the government of Osun State at the time. And I think that was the basis, that was the predicate for the appointment thing that they developed in that state. But people got inside that, they ran away with it. That is the Nigeria where they want this AI thing to interact with local knowledge. It is not hard to do. There are people that would put their money on the line, that would donate their intellect to get Nigeria somewhere, moving Nigeria from point A to destination B. There are people that are willing to do that. But do we have honest dealers in government and the superstructure of business in Nigeria that would not look at that upstart, that young innovator, and run away with the idea and not give them the benefit of the rewards that should accrue ordinarily from that? That said, look at the way the average Japanese, the average Mandarin speaker in China, the average South Korean, and elsewhere, you don't find what happens in Africa that we cannot be painstaking. Every time I ask, what has been the essence, the contribution of the universities that proliferate every day in Nigeria, including government-funded ones and privately owned ones? What has been their essence? Just almost existing completely detached from the needs of the larger society, the immediate society that they should serve. Every community, when you were at New Jersey Tech, you saw where that your university was located, right in the middle of urban something. In Nigeria, they develop universities as if they are leprosorium, like as if they are like leper colonies.
Right, yeah.
Yes, they are completely. When they want to, thank God it's improving. Things are improving, but you see university students behaving as if they are superior to anybody in the society.
Could that be because they are foreseeing the future that all those areas will be developed and they will become the center of town someday?
No, that is not the essence. It's just because they feel like they are special. They should be isolated. Yes, you need serenity and you need scenic environment where you can have some peace to get intellectual productivity. But the point we're making is that universities and tertiary institutions, any educational institution for that matter, should see itself as existing for the good of the community and the public, period. You want to begin to windsurf as if you are superior to people, as if you are a special class, something that is fundamentally at the basis of destruction of public education, health facilities in Nigeria, and now this digital economy that we're talking about, communication. It has to be domesticated, made ordinary. That language thing that they want to code, whether in Igbo, Hausa, Efik, what have you, all those things can be properly integrated, and even in the course of doing that, critical data that would safeguard the core of the existence of the nation should not be mortgaged. This is the point I'm making.
I see. All right. Thank you so much for that. I think it's a big conversation. There was a lot. I took a lot of notes, but there's only so much time that we have to.
Oh, thank you very much. And again, let me commend you. I mean, welcome back.
Yeah. So, but it was an interesting conversation because I know how systems are built. Let me quote Dr. Akinshino. Infrastructure is basically the backbone of anybody. If you don't have those things properly in place, which in my opinion includes the well-being of the common man, the citizen. If you don't have those kind of things in place, you can be connecting them all you want. They're not going to have access to a viable, useful phone device to even see whatever you're putting on there. I have some, like in my other practice where we're teaching life relationship and coach, life relationship and marriage. One of the challenges I've noticed personally is speaking too much English when it comes to our way of life and our way of doing marriage. A lot of times when I'm start to speak certain English, it goes way over the head of a common man, Nigerian man.
Ola, not just through those social functions. I sat down at a time. I looked at the phenomenon of public speaking, responsible public speaking, especially the political type. And I looked at the highfalutin words strung together, English that was being spoken by people like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the Sardauna, all of them. The Sardauna particularly, and Akintola did better amongst the intellectuals and elites, political elites of that age, in connecting with ordinary folks. Because they spoke the language of the people. Now, there were people that would just be saying isms, logi, and people will say, this guy is not right.
In the grand scheme of things, it's useless.
It's useless. They're not connected.
It's like the difference we're about to talk about this guy right now in a second, Donald Trump. It's like the difference between the base and the voters. There's a drastic difference between the base that you're speaking to, that you're provoking their emotions, and the actual people that will make it to the ballot and vote. If you miss that, well, I think we've been missing that heavy.
I'm letting them know that this political operative who would enjoy my trust by way of my vote is not superhuman. Of course, he is just like me, but I am trusting him with this mandate. I'm trusting him that he will know what I'm going through and will be able to put some soothing ban to some extent, and then make sure that the nation enjoys real development.
Right. So what we're speaking to is basically, yes, technology, digital, all that stuff is nice, but context.
That's it. That is it. Which is why here, if it comes to breaking it down in everyday Ekiti and Akure, Egba, Ijebu, or what? Linguistic subset, the one they call dialect, or some people will say vernacular.
Dialect,
I don't know what they mean by vernacular. You know, if it gets to that,
bouginess, that's our bouginess.
Yes, if it gets to that ijile, the cocoa, we will speak it the way the ordinary man will understand.
Yeah. Let me say this.
You know.
Let me say this last thing on to this topic right here, right?
Right.
There is a disconnect between the man. You see, there's a massive gender war going on, and
that's right.
a lot of people are yielding towards the Western things or Western ways and speech and all that kind of thing. But of course, there's other people that are saying tiwa tiwa. The way we do things is the authentic, but it's not that what they're looking for, the ultimate end goal is different, but there's a disconnect because of difference in languages and what people
let me afford you an insight into a conversation I had with Mr. Tolu Adedayo, the veteran broadcaster from Ondo State in Nigeria. You see, I was commending him 2 days ago about his unique flair, his unique take on the Yoruba language. I recalled my encounter with the late Arishekola Abdulaziz Alao in Ibadan, and how he was telling me that the kind of linguistic heritage I had, the Central Yoruba thing, that came just because the vast Yoruba nation at the time were under Ibadan, internal colonization. And I picked on him on that. That is rather sad. If that was the way he would look at he would look at my connection with what I felt at that time, or before that time, was our common patrimony, the Yoruba language, the Central one. And then when I look at the Central Yoruba and the variant often spoken by Mr. Tolu Adedayo on Breeze FM, on Ijile Odu, honestly, he speaks it with the flair, with the inflection, the tonal inflection of an Ekiti or Akure Ijesha person. That you will know that, okay, so there are variants to this Yoruba linguistic heritage. It is not just one.
Yes.
For example, when you want to say Romileti, the Ekiti or Akure man will say Yemilere. It's still part of the family.
Yeah.
The same way you have Canadian English, you have British English, you have Nigerian English. The same way you have Akoko Yoruba, you have Ekiti Yoruba, Akure Yoruba, Eba Yoruba, Ijebu Yoruba, Ibadan Yoruba, Eko Yoruba. This is what we're saying. You don't make other people feel like they are subjects under you because of imposition from one part of otherwise you won't build a nation that way. Yeah. The beauty of a nation is celebrating its diversity.
Yeah. That's the strength of it all. Absolutely. Do us a favor, please hit the like button. We can continue this conversation forever, as you can see, but we want to move on to some other trendy stories around the world. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified whenever we go live. Shout out to all 14 of you watching us live. I can see you. Feel free to chat. Feel free to chime in on the conversation. We'll be right back.